Good to have you join us on today's episode of E15, a daily program that hosts a team of journalists who take a critical look at some burning issues relating to the forthcoming general elections in Nigeria. I am Veronica Onuchi. Now, it's 23 days to 2015 general elections, and there are many issues facing the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Yesterday on E15, we discussed about the legal tussle between 4 political parties and INEC over the use of the card reader device introduced by the electoral body for the elections. Today, 15 political parties and 5 presidential candidates have threatened to pull out of the March 28th and April 11th elections should INEC insist on using the electronic device. Now, while the electoral umpire faces a boycott threat on one hand, having to contend with security issues seems to be on a front burner. Now, INEC says the presence of the military during the elections would boost the confidence of the electorate to vote. Now, the question is, will the presence of the troops have any direct consequence on the way elections pan out? We'll wait to answer that in the course of the program. And finally on the show today, we will look at the statement made by the Chadian President Idris Deby on Wednesday, calling on Boko Haram leader Abubakar Shekau to surrender alive or face death. Deby, who confirmed knowing the whereabouts of Shekau, could go into the history books if the terrorist becomes history. These are the issues we shall be looking at on today's episode of E15. Now let's take a break. When we return, the discussion will commence with our guests. Don't go away.
Join us for a one-on-one interview with a fearless Nigerian lawmaker, Femi Gbajabiamila.
All right, sir. If you were to look back now, if you had not turned out to be a lawyer or a politician, what do you think you would have been? What profession do you think you would have pursued?
Probably would have been a professional footballer.
Oh.
Yes, I enjoyed the game. I played. Even if I say so, I was a very good footballer in school.
On the Sunday interview, showing this Sunday, March 8, 2015, at 12:30 p.m., 5 p.m., and 9:30 p.m.
Okay, now last, let me ask you to tell us something, as in that you think you know about yourself, but a lot of people do not know what Nigerians deserve to know.
My life is like an open book. Again, I keep saying I'm a simple and very uncomplicated person. If it's a poisonous cockroach, I'll kill it. But I cannot hurt a fly.
Watch the exclusive interview on TVC News Nigeria on Concert Channel 190. The Sunday interview, where the true stories count.
Welcome back. I'm not alone in the studio. As usual, we have Babajide Otitoju here with me. I also have Eshomo Moimudu, and I also have Haruna. Many thanks for coming on the show once again. Now, the INEC has insisted on using the military for the elections. Why is it determined to use the military? I'll start with you, Haruna.
Well, I'm not. When I saw the issues we were about to discuss, I was discussing with the Shomoma. I don't know when they made that decision, because I thought that, and I was still looking at the issue. They did not make a decision, make a firm decision on it. But however, if that is the case, and it's true, I think we have to look at the context of the involvement of the military. Since Nigeria are now apprehensive about the usage of the military are not supposed to be involved in elections. But given our own scenario, our democracy is still growing. There is security in the country. We can give a thought to that kind of consideration. That the military should come in, not necessarily protecting the polling booths, but should be around at least to enhance confidence, that's confidence. But my own position is that there should be rules of engagement. In other words, the rules should be split out. What role are they going to play? Given the antecedents, given the Kitty antecedents.
Issue, yeah.
So I'm not too comfortable. If the military must be used, then there must be adequate and explicit rules of engagement on their involvement and what they will do, so that we will not be speculating that they're going to be used by some forces to manipulate the process.
Jide, why do you think INEC is still insisting? Now he has said our democracy is still growing, and then there should be rules of engagement.
Yes, INEC will naturally insist on having the military police our elections, because the most successful elections we've had, under Jega especially, the military played a very active part. I remember the 2011 election, the election that gave the Edo State governor a second term in office. There was a huge presence of the military, and it didn't stop the opposition party from winning. And of course, Rocha Sokorocha, candidate of an opposition party, was involved in won the Imo governorship with the military, actively deployed. The same thing with the man who was before him, So naturally, and we've seen even here in Lagos, soldiers deployed on election day, and it didn't stop the dominant party in this state from winning, even though it's an opposition party. So that is the argument. And I think also that INEC, just like many Nigerians, have lost faith in the police. The police are ill-equipped, they do not have sufficient training, and they do not offer the kind of deterrence that the military provides. If you are traveling, maybe to Kogi State, and on your way you see soldiers manning some checkpoints, and then you see another checkpoint manned by police, I can hazard a guess that you feel more comfortable with the presence of the soldiers than the presence of the police, because the police over the years have not acquitted themselves well. Nigerians have very little regard for the police. We were discussing with a friend of mine, 3 days ago, and he was saying, look, even APC campaigns here in Lagos, he sees thugs poking fingers at policemen. Yes, even threatening policemen. Just this kind of behavior that they put up on our roads. Sometimes even treating policemen like sweet rap on the floor. So, but nobody can do that to the military. The military have not misbehaved to the point when you can say that Nigerians no longer respect them or Nigerians no longer fear them. But I can tell you, many of these bad boys, many of the street urchins, do not have any regard for the police. And if we don't use them, if we don't use the military, especially in some volatile states, what I call they are not necessarily swing states, but battleground states, where the stakes are really high. If we don't use them, the police, in fact, if we are talking about compromise, the police are more likely, are more easily compromised than the military. We all saw what the IG did at, what's it called, at the National Assembly, trying to ensure that Tambua, did not gain entry into the National Assembly complex, so that maybe behind him he could be impeached or a new leadership foisted on the National Assembly. So these are the reasons, and of course, INEC uses them to police its materials. Yes. They use them on election day. Those materials are usually deployed late. I know of a particular case in Enugu State where thugs attacked ballot materials being taken by the police to a particular local government because they would deploy them late so that they don't get hijacked by those desperate to rig.
All right, let me quickly come to Eshomomo. Now, Jide spoke about comfortability of the electorate to boldly come out to vote. Now, you were in Ekiti and some other places looking at how the elections have been going on. Is that how it panned out? Because a lot of people saw how it went down in Ekiti State and felt it was more of intimidation.
Right.
Yeah, I think before, until the Ekiti Gates audio tape came out, I think one challenge a lot of people had with the deployment of military in Ekiti was their presence at the polling units. But when there was this outcry after Ekiti election, the strategy changed in Osun. They were not at the polling units in Osun. You could see them around, maybe on the road. They didn't come to the polling units. But I think we're losing sight of one critical aspect of the security during the election, the SSS. In Osun, it was not the military that were shooting into the air before the election day. It was the men of the state security.
DSS.
So it was men of state security that moved around about 40 to 50.
Who were those carrying out arrests? Because I hear some people were arrested.
The SSS. And so we must not lose sight of the activity of the SSS to intimidate opposition. Because the military were not there intimidating people. In the night, who went into their house to pick out people from their rooms, the hotel rooms? The men of the SSS. So if we say the military should not come in, are we forgetting what the role the SSS also played in Ekiti and Osun? So I think to ensure confidence of the people in this election, we need the military. But also, like Habib said, with a caveat that, look, you are not going to go to the polling units like you did, like you observed in Osun, but also it's stand one into men of the SSS. You should not use your uniform. Now imagine SSS wearing hood, even in the afternoon. I think we carried it, we saw it in Osun, moving up and down, shooting into the air. Yeah. We saw it, we filmed it, and those were acts of intimidation. Now, if you see that before the election day, of course, you're not going to have too many people come out to vote. Yes. Because those are styles to intimidate people so that they won't come out there. You can do whatever you want to do. And I think when we're talking about security generally, we should make it all-encompassing. The military guys, and also especially the SSS.
Security operatives.
On the chimney, something that Jide said. You see, Jide painted an ideal, the scenario we painted is an ideal situation. You know, what we saw in 2007 in Lagos, I was about politics. Yes, ideal situation. The army boys will tell you, don't go that way, go this way. You know, they were there to maintain security, law and order. You know, their job was symbiotic with that of the police. But given our experience, the past 2-3 months, the Ekiti or Osun elections that the chairman just mentioned, one will be suspicious. One will be forced to be suspicious.
Of course. Of
the use of military. And that question you asked, to me, very, very instructive. You know, because when you see soldiers on the street, and these soldiers are not, their behavior is not a bit. They are intimidating voters, intimidating people. In Osun, the DSS people were moving in convoys of cars, of trucks, and in a show of force that we are in charge here. That should not be the case. So I want to say, yes, adding to what they said, there should be, as I said, their role should be defined, well defined. If you must partake in elections, which is not ideal in a normal situation, all over the world, I want to speculate.